There is a call for you. Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Today's message is personal. It concerns you. In fact, it might get a bit uncomfortable, but that's okay because it is for good and not for evil. There is a call for you. There are three characters in the Bible who God called, and I would like us to look at them. The first one is Moses. Moses grew up as a prince in Egypt and very likely would have been in line to be a ruler in that country, but he got into trouble and had to run away from a place which was his home and seek refuge in a foreign country. The former prince was now a shepherd in Midian, married and settled as a farmer. One day, when he was all of 80 years old, Moses had an encounter with God. It was not an ordinary encounter, like nothing he had experienced before. It was high drama, burning bush, voice speaking from the burning bush, and the bush was not consumed. And this old man stood there doing what the voice in the bush told him. After a reasonable introduction, the Lord, who was that voice in the bush, said, "So now, go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." Exodus 3, verses 1 through 10. What followed after was one of the most carefully documented account of resistance by man to the call of God. Moses offered excuse after excuse, and each time God knocked it down. In the end, he gave in, and the next 40 years of his life was the most exciting period ever. This old man, when he died at the age of 120, this is what was said of him. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Deuteronomy 34, 10 to 12. Hello, my friend, my old friend. Yes, you. Has God been calling you for an assignment? Let me tell you something about God. When he has a job for you to do, he doesn't give you options. When God calls you, it is not a mistake. This call is yours. Be smart and respond. The second character is a young boy, probably less than 10 years old, whose mother left him to live with the priest in the tabernacle. The kid, Samuel, did not have a bedroom, but slept on humble bedding in the part of the tabernacle where the very holy Ark of the Covenant was. One night while sleeping, he heard someone called him, and so he dutifully ran to the old priest thinking he called. "No, Samuel, go back to bed." It happened a second time, and the priest sent him back to bed again. The third time it happened, the old man realized it wasn't a nightmare, that God was up to something. Eli told the boy, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Sure enough, it happened, and God spoke and gave the kid a chilling message for the nation of Israel. In the morning, Samuel was too afraid to deliver the message to Eli, but the old man insisted. That was a turning point in the life of this kid, whose mother had willed him back to God. Listen to what was said of Samuel. "The Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba recognized that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word." 1 Samuel 3, verses 19 to 21. Samuel served as the last of the judges in Israel, as a priest who succeeded Eli, and as a great prophet who anointed the first and second kings of Israel. You might be a younger person than Moses, but know that God calls young people too. If he is calling you, let him know that you are listening and get ready for your orders. It will launch you into the most rewarding of life's experiences. The last man is Saul, hardly older than 30. This was right around the time of the emergence of this great phenomenon called the church in Jerusalem, almost 2,000 years ago. Jesus had promised that he was going to build a church, not a brick and mortar structure, but a universal organization of people from every tribe and nation, people who would be redeemed and be called the children of God. The church grew astronomically, and so did persecution, led by the chief persecutor, Saul, a religious zealot. But Saul began to destroy the church. Going from house to house, he dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. Acts 8 and verse 3. But Saul had an encounter with God. He was on his way to Damascus to conduct another of his renowned and dreaded raids to imprison any Christian they found. His experience on the road that day was phenomenal. He fell to the ground and heard a voice called him by name and spoke to him. "Who are you, Lord?" he asked. "I am Jesus whom you are persecuting," the voice said. Saul was told to go to the city and wait to be told what he must do. Hear the message that Saul got 3 days later. The Lord said to Ananias, "Go, this man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and their kings and to the people of Israel. I will show him how much he must suffer for my sake." Acts 9 verses 15 and 16. That was the start of an amazingly dramatic and dynamic period of ministry in which God used him in amazing ways. Oh, he suffered immensely and was executed for the sake of the gospel that he once fought against. But Saul turned Paul left his mark and ministry on the church, and 21 centuries later, his ministry is still being affected. My friend, I am deeply convicted to share this message with you. God is calling you. God has been calling you, and you have been dodging, finding excuses, ignoring him, delaying your response. I know full well all of those. For years, I totally ignored and dodged the call of God until one Sunday night, 16 years ago, I stopped running. I surrendered. And now I lead a most exciting and fulfilling life in full service to my God. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 4 and verse 7.